Senate, not Senate, the House and Senate Conference Committee on H.493, the FY26 budget, May 8th. We're going to first start with JFO and different language, new language sections. Make sure we're all good with those.
Thank you, Grady Nixon, Joint Fiscal Office. So this document has proposals from the House, the Committee of Conference, and the Senate all mixed together. You'll see at the top of each page, it flags which body it's coming from, or if it's coming from the Committee of Conference. On page 1, this is a House proposal further amending section B 1100 of Act 78, the FY24 budget. So this would just add to a prior year appropriation regarding the Reach Ahead pilot program that unexpended appropriation shall carry forward into subsequent fiscal years and remain available for that appropriation.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're all good with that.
Mm-hmm.
Your language. Yes.
The second page is a Committee of Conference, so joint proposal recommended from the Joint Fiscal Office regarding language on a $1.5 million base increase for the General Assembly's budget. This would clarify that the $1.5 million be for expenses, including meetings of the General Assembly not budgeted for in prior, current, or future appropriations acts. And that it is the intent of the General Assembly that the proposed fiscal year 2027 General Assembly budget exclude this $1.5 million increase from the calculation of the base appropriation amount.
A long way of saying it's one way under disguise.
Page 3 of the document is a Senate proposal. This relates to the Vermont Pension Investment Commission.
This is what you gave us yesterday.
Yeah, there's been no changes.
I don't want to speak for my two colleagues, but I'm willing to accept it.
Do you want to say anything about anything that you learned?
I,
We're taking our chances by doing it. I just want to make that.
we're making our chance. We have a couple very, very good employees that are helping to manage our funds, especially use investment firms to assist them, but you got to pick the right investment firm. And these two people are, from what I'm understanding, are rock stars. And we have been offered money, good money from other states to grab them. And we may lose them if we do nothing. And if we do something, we may lose them, but I'm trying to minimize the risk. So this may help. My question to you is, Grady, with this, we put some money aside in the event that this does show that they need a pay bump. Does that money, where does that show?
So in several B sections and then sections E133, E134, and E514.1, you'll see adjustments to the numbers.
All the ones that
Correct.
Chris had to do.
Correct.
Well, so it's all.
And it comes out of the retirement funds. It's not general funds. So we're not going to see it on some of these spreadsheets.
So you'll see it in the B sections and then in the E sections of the bill.
Okay. So those are all the things that Chris did that you get to do again.
Already done.
All right. Thank you.
So you still want to keep the number.
At 125.
Okay.
Yes.
And just, we don't disagree that they're valuable employees. We just want to go through the system. We think any difficulty that they had before, this should help, that we're saying they shall conduct it, they shall do it every 3 years. And then that they can get reclassified. I think this should help the situation, and I'm not. My understanding is not necessarily take any longer than reclassifying as exempt and going through a wage process that way too. So,
And you may be right. I've not experienced it. All I know is next life, I've already told our chair, I am going to be in the investment business.
He's got another career ahead of him.
On page 4, This is a technical update to avoid conflict within the big bill itself and with H.493 where this language is also being carried currently. So the committee agreed to remove the voluntary buyout program from this bill. That program is no longer being created in statute in H.493. In this section of the bill, there was a reference to the statute that was establishing the voluntary buyout program in both bills initially. Because it's no longer in statute and particularly of importance for the big bill because it's not in the big bill. That statutory reference is just being replaced with A, which you'll see highlighted there.
Oh, through a voluntary buyout program.
Correct.
It's so small, it's hard to find the.
So we didn't have to take it out.
No, so this will still stay. The pilot appropriation will still stay and the amendment to the pilot fund statute adding in 4C will still stay.
But there's that other conflict with the voluntary buyout program.
So this is to address that potential conflict.
Okay. Good.
Has this been reviewed with Tucker? Because he was
Yes.
trying to navigate.
Tucker has the same language in H.497. On page 5 and page 6, the technical letter flagged that you might want to add language regarding the creation of pool positions. So there are 2 sections just specifying the creation of those positions.
Clear. That's 6 also, right?
Yes,
Okay.
So Grady, this amount is not what we budgeted because we're taking away the outside contractor that was paying for part of that position. Does that still need to be here?
I'll make sure that the dollar amounts are correct.
Okay.
And corrected if necessary.
Okay.
On page 7, this is a Senate proposal relating to the Green Mountain Care Board settlement.
Maybe we should hear what it is, and then I think I'll want to back at our next meeting.
So this represents the Green Mountain Care Board in a settlement with the University of Vermont network. Check center
Is
versus
it from the medical center, not the network?
center for non-hospital primary care providers. Can you check on the center or network? I
Believe it's
Jen.
centered, but I'll double check.
I think that's
Um,
yours.
Oh, it's both, right? It's there, both are there. So it's the settlement that was entered into to provide $11 million to non-hospital primary care providers. So within the process, next year, and I don't know how early next year, the Green Mountain Care Board and the network will work together to distribute the $11 million. And then what we're asking for is a report back on how that $11 million is distributed to non-hospital affiliated primary care folks. And what that will allow us to do is to look and see if there's any duplication of appropriations for primary care that we currently have in the budget. And if that's the case, then we may fund some funds that we can use for other purposes. And so to keep the purposes related to the areas of interest in primary care, so the Waitsfield primary care practice or the Maple Mountain Family Medicine Residency Program or mental health, substance use disorder, and other related healthcare services. There wouldn't be all of those, but that would be the type of
Examples.
that any funds that we find could utilize. And as I said, I have talked with the board and the hospital and
You have about this?
oh yeah.
So it's legal.
Is this legal? Well, it's legal. If we find out that money's been appropriated to specific unaffiliated blueprint practices and that replaces funds that we would have in our budget, then we wouldn't want to have duplication.
So that's your intent, is to avoid duplication?
Yeah. And maybe it won't. Stuck.
What if, I feel like we're kind of really getting into policy here, but, somebody might be getting more, but they might actually really need it. So
Well, that'd be another question.
That, right?
We don't have to do anything with it, but, sure, they might need it, but right now, for example, UVM closed the Waitsfield primary care
Right.
practice. This might provide funds to open it up. In fact, the money that the 11 million may be used for that. Didn't go for that here, so, but they might need more. So there are a lot of options within it.
Okay. All right, we'll have to take this one under advisement and get back to it.
Okay.
On page 8, this is Senate section. There are several sections that Legislative Council reviewed and updated. I believe that the Committee of Conference already accepted this, but just wanted to belts and suspenders make sure. On page 9, this is the report language relating to the skilled nursing facilities grants. So you'll see in sub A, this relates to current fiscal year appropriation for this. And then sub B relates to the appropriation in H.493. And I believe the committee this morning agreed to this section just with the inclusion of the word retention following workforce in 2 instances. And since then, the Joint Fiscal Office just added in, including reduction of reliance on travel nurses as well to that information.
Yes, that's good.
I'm sorry, just wake me up.
I am. If we start snoring, I'll leave.
On page 10, this is a House proposal. This relates to legislative intent for funding for the Maple Mountain Family Medicine Residency Program. So it specifies what the appropriations made in the one-time sections are, and then establishes the intent to appropriate funds in future years to fully implement the program.
Great.
On page 11, again, this is a section that was reviewed by Ledge Council that I believe the committee already accepted, just making sure that that is the case. This relates to Quimby. And same with the section on the following page, section E307.1, relating to the Vermont Health Benefit Exchange adoption of emergency rules. Page 13, this is a Legislative Council recommended response to the technical letter. So the technical letter had some recommended updates to section E312.2, which relates to the movement of the Office of Health Equity. Legislative Council reviewed this and had further technical updates. So those are provided here and highlighted for the committee's awareness. Same with page 14. This also relates to that move of the Office of Health Equity and reflects Legislative Council recommended further updates to the updates in the technical letter.
Guys clear with that?
Yeah, this was the other one, Senator Lyons, that you mentioned this morning,
Yeah.
right? About health equity.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
On page 15, this is a Senate proposal relating to the appropriation to the parent-child centers for the grant to the parent-child centers for smoking cessation. This language is pulled from language that was used in both Act 185 and Act 78 prior year appropriations acts. And it includes reporting language on the appropriation made in this act, as well as the results of the investments made in those prior year appropriations acts.
And his number of pregnant women who quit.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. Need to know how successful they are. Just, I think it's a good program. And so that includes going back a bit on some of their data.
Yes.
Great, okay. All right, you guys okay with that? Yep, I think we're good.
On page 16, this is a House proposal to reduce the extension of DCF rulemaking. So updating it to be on or before April 1st, the commissioner shall file proposed rules that shall become effective on September 1st, 2026.
That's what we talked about this morning. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
On page 17, this is Legislative Council recommended further technical updates to a section that is also being updated in H.493. So this aligns the amendments to this section occurring in the budget with the amendments occurring in H.493.
The language, okay.
On page 19, this is a Senate proposal relating to Dale payment reform.
This is the conflict free
Right.
management that I hope we can resolve. We spent time,
A lot of time.
yes.
Before Senator Lyons explains it, I would just flag for the committee, in your printout, you'll notice a typo on line 8. It should read developmental services, not development services.
Well, you caught
Gives us anything to do.
it.
Okay, so this is not uncomplicated, but the process of developing conflict-free case management, and standardized reimbursement rates for folks. The issue is having both the rates in place as well as defined benefits and, acuity levels. The concern is that on one side, they need to go together, and on the other side, they can be implemented separately. What this does is allows for the Joint Fiscal Committee to have information coming in from the department that will that will give Joint Fiscal Committee some approval process to allow for the implementation of the conflict-free case management requirements on October 1st, which is the federal date for this to happen. Oh, what this will continue to provide some incentive for the work to get done. And then it will also provide an opportunity for legislative oversight that it is happening and allow for this to be implemented. So the Joint Fiscal Committee will approve implementation of what is presented at its September meeting.
So there'll be a progress report in July,
Yep.
explaining the final report, right, okay.
Methodology for the conflict, for the standardized rates
Okay.
and for the measurements that are used
Okay,
to pay for those
okay.
services.
And then in September, we see the final report
Mhm.
before it goes into effect October 1st.
Yes. So any unresolved issues will be reported, and also a way that those unresolved issues will be resolved. And so whether they're resolved or not, Joint Fiscal will say, yes, go ahead and resolve those issues and proceed with implementation. We need to be clear that things may not be fully resolved before we get there. This is something that we talked about with the department, with the chair of human services in the House, and with folks who are actually implementing the rates
Right,
and the
okay.
a model for service reimbursement.
So what happens if the Joint Fiscal Committee doesn't approve the implementation?
It doesn't happen.
It just won't happen.
Yep.
They could come back and present another plan, but it doesn't address
It
it.
will probably be important that it happened, simply
Yeah.
because of the conditions at the federal level. We don't,
Right.
would be under significant scrutiny if that happened. So we're looking for people to get together and make decisions, that, nobody can live with, but we'll live with. Yeah.
So all
And
the
the
way.
reason for having the July meeting is to kind of set the table and say what's not resolved, what is resolved. And it's an opportunity for joint fiscal members to ask questions, so that they better understand the methodology and can introduce, anyway, so
Right. So you're okay with it?
Right.
Yeah.
Wood is okay with it.
Right.
yes.
Okay, your folks are okay with it.
Yeah.
And somebody will remember to tell joint fiscal, so it's on our agenda for those two meetings?
Somebody will do that. I bet you there would be a lot of
You
people.
mentioned it there.
And also,
To get lost.
don't ignore the next page where there will be a presentation to appropriations and policy committees
Okay,
on what's there.
okay.
I mean, the concern is that you're providing the services that people need. Period.
So
You're being paid for those services that people need. Those two things go together.
And
And
Dale is okay with, they saw the language?
Jail saw the language. We took out a phrase,
Like that.
they didn't like.
Actuarial analysis was in the middle, having an actuarial analysis of the standardized rates, and the services.
But these requirements are they're in the enabling legislation. The standardized rates reflect blah, 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 blah. What I think is probably the sticking point between, and maybe the middle ground here is that giving some legislative oversight in this process, because it's new, and there's been some Sturm und Drang around it over the years. And so this was kind of the best that we ended up coming up with.
Yeah, and remember, this has been going on for quite a bit of time, so we're trying to get to some closure on an issue that had been standing
Mhm.
for a while. Yeah.
Okay with it?
If Dale's okay with it, then I'm okay with it.
Would you
I
say
don't think
they're
it was
okay
a
with it?
ringing endorsement. I think,
But it wasn't a,
but it was,
No, we took out the large,
Like,
Angst that we
it
got.
wasn't the angst that we got with the language that was in there.
Doesn't jeopardize our
and
1511
and we
waiver.
have come back from the original position of asking for a full year delay. So,
a year delay would probably jeopardize our waiver much more than this will.
And
This at least.
we can't afford to jeopardize the
No.
1150.
no,
no, we cannot.
That's
yeah.
We know.
my whole question.
Right. Okay,
Okay.
so this sounds good. Thank you both for the work that you did on this,
Yeah.
because I know there's a lot of people and.
Don't need to offer examples, with just that this has to happen.
On page 21, this is a House proposal relating to adult ed.
Oh. Sorry, it's gonna be a different one.
Substitute amendment?
The topic that doesn't die until we are putting it to bed. I'm really sorry that we just was in the moment we started, so I will.
Please
when we're
disregard
done-
pages 21 and
Thank you. We will hand you something that you can put in.
and also page 23.
Yep, sorry, Dan.
On page 24, and so these last two sections, these are just technical updates relating to debt service fund language that was in the BAA to ensure that this language is not in conflict with GASB rules. So this was in the technical letter and signed off by the treasurer's office just to make sure that this language is operational. And I would just flag on page 26, at the very bottom, language in red. That language won't appear in the bill. I just wanted to flag for the committee that part of this update is taking out that language that would have been added to that section.
So we just have one thing to get back to. Sorry about that. It's the other thing that never dies.
So you'll check in on the,
We'll check in on yes,
in a way, it's like found money and whether or not it really is found money, depending on how it's appropriated.
right,
It's still open to question, but at least it gives us some way of getting a report back
right.
and identifying if and how we might use $11 million or a portion.
But do you have anything else?
I'm just checking my list. That's what I'm trying to go. Did you have any thoughts on the other money for the parent-child centers?
No.
Okay. We have the language, we just need the money.
Yeah.
Reach ahead, we did that. Check things off.
It's just what we took out.
Nursing home, 333. DPIC, waiting on
Waiting
close.
for the capital cash.
What they had.
Cash fund was just going health equity. We're waiting for. Did we get, I'm sorry, I might have missed it, Grady. Was there language we were gonna get, or was it just gonna show in the numbers? The positions to DHCD, the 3 limited service positions. The
So
language that's needed?
for the position section and the one-time section, those, you'll see any language relating to those in the bill itself, but we don't
Okay.
have the
We
final.
don't, okay,
So for now, it's just living in the spreadsheets.
okay. All right, I just want to be sure about that.
Right now, it's 3 limited service positions.
Yes,
Correct.
yes, totaling 450. Okay, so PCC money, adult ed, close out and off session language, which is coming. We haven't seen other spreadsheets yet that have the S-126 moved out and the positions. Do we
You don't
any
have
update?
it, no.
Okay, that's fine. I just wondered where we are. I just want to make, cash fund, we're waiting for, I guess they're not done yet. We'll look into the settlement funds. I think that's my list. Am I missing anything?
I did hear that the cash, the number won't change. They're negotiating on other
They're
items.
negotiating a few things at the bottom and
I think
we've
that's-
done do we have language now for the recovery center and the, Grant, do we have-
Working on
That will be in
In the
the
next batch?
1100s, so you'll see that when the bill's produced.
oh, okay, so that's where the language would be.
Yep.
Okay.
that. Okay, so do you want to meet at 4 still?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go to our